What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the High Value Agent Podcast, where we inspire people to create a better life through real estate. I am going to break down for you this one strategy that I guarantee you, and I say guarantee because I mean it, guarantee will grow your business. This one strategy that if you changed nothing else right now compared to what you did over the past 12 months, if you changed nothing else except for this one thing, your business will grow. How it will grow will be through your communication. The more effective you are as a communicator, the easier it is to build rapport with the client, with the lead, the easier it is to convert lead into client, and the easier it is to turn client into advocate, which means you get referrals and future business from a past client. So, this one thing, this one strategy, very simple that I'm going to share with you. I don't want you to take it lightly. I don't want you to listen to this and be like, I can't just, it can't be that simple. That is your ego trying to stop you from having number one, just being open minded, right? Everything I was shared with you, everything that I share, I have shared with you, and everything that I share with you today and moving forward, just who I am is going to be based on um, proven track record of success, not based on theory. It's going to be based on what is actually being applied today or has been applied for years, and based on the results, the results showing us that this stuff works. As a matter of fact, because it works so well, I'm willing to share it with you. Okay. So do not listen to this and be like, "Ah, it can't be that simple." Don't allow your ego to stop you from growing your business over the next 12 months. So here we go. Very simple approach whenever you're talking to a client, whenever you're talking to a lead, and you are obviously you're engaging in the conversation. The lead or the client, or let's just say lead, for example, okay, the lead has intention to buy or sell. You set an appointment with them to either meet at a showing or you meet for a consultation. On our team, we coach and train to meet with the buyer or the seller for a consultation 100% of the time. We want to get in front of them and we want to be able to build the rapport, right? We want to articulate our value and get a what we call a mutual commitment between, hey, I'm going to be your agent and you are now my client. So we want to do that before anything else, right? And also data backs up that the client 76% of the time hires the first agent that they meet with. So we also got data backing that up too, right? Okay. So we want to get in front of them. So let's assume I'm talking to a client or a lead and I set an appointment to meet with them for a home buying consultation. Here's where I see a lot of people make mistakes and it ends up costing them business in the future is they never future pace the client on what happens next. So future pace is a term that you may have heard before, maybe you haven't heard before. Okay, future pace is a form or a strategy within the NLP influence system. Okay, so like if you ever heard of neuro linguistic programming, it is a strategy to influence not only yourself but the people that you're talking to, the people that you communicate with. Future pacing is a form of that. Future pacing is simply setting the expectation as to what is going to happen next. Okay, in other words, you could just simply say the next steps. That is the number one strategy. That is the number one thing is how often are you with a client or with a lead telling them what's going to happen next and being very clear and precise on that. Okay, so back to my example. I set the appointment. So when I set the appointment, before I get off the phone with them, I got a day and time. Before I get off the phone with them, I need to explain to them what's going to happen next. If I today, let's say today is Wednesday, okay? If I set the appointment for Friday at noon, that from now to Friday at noon when we're supposed to meet, I'm going to very precisely and clearly explain to them what is going to happen during that time frame. Okay. Now, what you say is going to be dependent on how your follow-up cadence, your standards of operations, uh, all that stuff is going to vary. I can give you an example of what we do. So when we set that appointment, I'm going to let client know that, hey, I got a schedule for Friday at noon, and in the meantime, here's what I'm going to do, and here's what you can expect from me. I'm going to when we get off the phone, I'm going to send you a video text just so you can put a face to the voice, and also to make sure that I have you set up on a search criteria to where you're getting emails sent to you of properties that are going to fit your criteria based on what we discussed on this phone call. But also, to I'm going to do X, I'm going to do Y, and I'm also going to do Z. Okay. In that, I could say I'm going to touch base with you tomorrow. I'm going to touch base with you at this time to verify that you received the email with our office address. Okay. And then the day of, I'll reach out to you again just to make sure you're good to go. Now, you're probably going to hang up the phone, and you're probably going to have certain feelings of uncertainty and maybe even a little bit of fear. And I just want to let you know that is 100% okay. The way you feel is normal when you're going into an opportunity to grow. Okay. You said to me that you're wanting to be the first person in your family to own real estate, to buy a house. And so that is a very unknown territory for you, which is why I'm here to support you. That is going to be very uncomfortable, which makes the reason of meeting with me on Friday even more important. So if you feel that way, and if you have certain concerns and questions, we don't have to wait till Friday. Call me before then so that I could support you through that. Okay. So what I did was I explained what the next step, and at that point, let me go back. When I say that, and I verified there's no other questions or things that she would have, at that point, I hang up the phone, and then I do what I said I was going to do, and I make sure in my CRM I got those the tasks that I need set up. So then I am following through on those commitments, right? But the power in what I just did and future pacing, setting the next steps, all that stuff is, it actually, even if she is uncertain or she has some fear, before me saying that, the fact that I now said all of that actually brought her fear and uncertainty down, and it drove her certainty up. Okay. And if she weren't to show up to meet with me on Friday, because we were supposed to meet Friday at noon, if she weren't to show up, it wouldn't be because she's ghosting me. It would be because something actually in her life happened to where she wouldn't be able to make it. That's the difference between I getting a call from her and her telling me, "Hey, I can't make it because of this. Can we reschedule for this day and time?" versus that person just not showing up, and then now you never talk to them again. Okay. And it's very important that, yes, that's the buyer. It's very important that you use the same strategy when that person becomes a client or when that person is a seller. Okay. Like a client, for example, I get that client under contract. Now we're pending on a home. Obviously, I want to let them, congratulations. We are officially under contract. Now, this is where I future pace on, and don't future pace what the next 60 days in total, or 30 or 45 days in total are going to be like. You want to chunk it, right? So in this situation, let's say I have client under contract. She wants an inspection, she wants an appraisal, or she has to get an appraisal, and then we close, right? Those are typically, and then you'll have little things in between there, like homeowners insurance and stuff like that, right? But the first big milestone here in our state when it comes to buying a house typically is going to be getting an inspection done, an independent inspection to determine the condition of the house. Okay. And that typically is happening within 2 weeks of being under contract. Okay. So we have our good faith deposit or earnest money. and then we have inspection. I'm just going to chunk those two things into one thing that I'm going to future pace on. So I'm not going to future pace on anything past that milestone. So for example, I will congratulate client and I will say, so here's what's going to happen next. Our transaction team is going to coordinate with you a day and time, and with the seller. I'm sorry, they're going to coordinate with you and the seller a day and time for the inspection to be done. Okay. Now, that inspection typically can be 2 to 3 hours. You don't have to stay the whole time. However, you're more than welcome to. Okay. It's highly recommended that you go to it. Whether you go to it for an hour, for the full time, that is completely up to you. All right. Another thing, the earnest money. The earnest money, we have 3 business days to get that turned in. So when can you get that to me, or when can I support you to pick that up, or blah, 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 blah. And so that's going to happen next. And then once my transaction team, once they reach out to you with these details, I just want to remind you, like, I'm still here for you. Even though we have a transaction team who is incredible at what they do. I mean, I can't tell you how skilled and how many families we've helped so far over the past 5 years of having this transaction team. How many times they've been able to catch things that could have turned into some issues, right? They were able to catch it before it happened just because of how highly skilled they are, right? So even though they're going to be a part of this and helping us through this transaction to make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed, I'm still here for you. I'm going to connect with you tomorrow to check in and see how you're doing with retaining the earnest money, what I can do to support you, and then also, just more importantly, see if you have any questions of what I can do to support you. You can expect to hear from me every day or every other day. And as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and for sure, you can reach out to the transaction team. Okay. Another thing, the lender is going to, so I'm future pacing. I'm future pacing. Now, here's the key. Here's the key. When you set the next steps, and that's just for that first chunk, right? That first milestone. And even in that first week to two of being under contract, there's a lot going on. And it can still be overwhelming as you're explaining and future pacing this to the client. So here's the power. Here's a hack to make sure that instead of the client retaining 7% of what you told them on that phone call, they actually retain 50% or they retain 70%. When I get done future pacing client, I congratulated them, I future paced them. When I am officially done and I hang up the phone, I am going to send client a recap email breaking down in summary what our conversation was about. And so when you're doing this, whether they're a lead turning into a client or they're a client under contract, and you're holding their hand through the transaction, or you are, it could just be in your day-to-day life, right? With your family, whoever it may be. When you do that, your communication level goes way up as far as how well you communicate, and the experience that the people around you have based on your communication skills, it drives up. And so for you and your business, now you're able to retain your conversion rate will go up. You're able to actually increase your client retention as well. And you actually will get a higher return on your time overall because you'll get more referrals and inbound opportunities just from implementing this strategy. Just because you set the expectations and just because you were very thorough in your communication and you followed up with that summary email, with that recap email. So here's what I'm going to end with. Okay. The strategy that will, if you don't change anything else, you just apply future pacing, it will, you will grow your business. Here's why. For a client to have a great experience working with you want the experience conditions to be better than the experience expectations. Like, let's say the transaction, for example. You want the transaction conditions to be better than the transaction expectations. That's if you want them to have a great experience with you. So again, that's how you turn one client into a client for life. And then that's how you turn, let's say you help 30 families in 1 year. How can you retain all 30 and that 30 turn into the next year 60 clients and then 100 clients? It's that. And again, simply doing this by setting the expectation, discussing the reality of the market or the process, any possible turbulence that could happen, anything that could occur during the transaction. Again, you gotta give them bite-sized pieces, but do this before the actual turbulence or issues happen, right? Do this before the problems arise. That's why future pacing and setting the expectation is so important. Because if something were to happen and you future pace them on what could possibly happen and it did happen, yeah, they'll be emotional, but they'll also be like, you know what, Antoine actually told me this would happen and that we would have a solution for it. So they're able to self discover that, hey, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. This was already talked about, right? Now, that's for them to have a great experience. If you want client to have what we can consider a neutral experience, all you need to do, and I hope this isn't your goal, but all you need to do is have the transaction expectations match the conditions. So everything you said was going to happen actually happened, right? Um, so they are essentially just they're experiencing what they expected. It's still a net positive though. Make that clear. You are still in a net positive because when you are very good at building rapport with the person, you're really establishing a strong relationship with them. It still would drive because of your rapport. You will still be able to drive that certainty, and they'll still be secure working with you, right? There will still be that security, you know. Now, here's where most agents end up having this revolving door of clients, and they can never really grow their business year after year. Is they don't future pace well, and the client has a negative experience, and the transaction expectations are actually better than the transaction conditions. So that can happen because we weren't honest in our communication. That could be about the reality of the market, the possible problems that could come up during a transaction. Like we weren't clearly communicating that, or we just weren't being honest. We were afraid of their reaction or whatever it may be. Okay. And so that experience ended up happening to where the expectations are better than what the actual condition of the transaction was. So we got to be careful to avoid over promising and paint the picture that um, turbulence could possibly happen. And again, if they do, we have a solution for it. We have a plan for it. You're not the first client we've helped. We've helped thousands of clients. I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you that we've seen a lot of this, probably 99% of every possible situation. And there's always a solution that if we don't have it, you know, right away, we'll get it in a timely manner. And so you're going to be protected with me, with us. And so all you're wanting to do is to make sure that when we use future pacing, that strategy, that number one, you got to practice it and you got to get very good at it. You got to also know there's a diminishing return. You don't want to overwhelm, but even if you do start to overwhelm because you're saying a lot of things, if you can consistently use that recap email, then your communication is going to everything you're trying to get across to the client, it will actually land. So this strategy will grow your business. I don't care if I don't care if your prospecting stays the same. You don't build your skills nowhere else. You don't do any more marketing or anything else. You just maintain what you've been doing, but you do this too. Your business will grow 100%. So All right. As always, we're going to put a bow on this one. If you have any, um, well, I want to ask you if you have any feedback or anything that you would love for me to unpack. My commitment is to make sure that I give back to this incredible industry. And so, like, please reach out. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And as always, like, we're in the new year. I'm still committed, obviously, to bringing my best foot forward when it comes to providing the information to help you grow your business. And we're going to ramp it up a notch. We're going to have some great guests coming here soon to help support and give value. So be looking out for that. But again, anything I can do, let me know. Listen to this again. Make sure you implement. Make sure you implement. And in the comments, or hit me up on social media. Let me know how it worked for you. All right. Be strong. See you guys on the next one. Peace.